Rednecks with chainsaws meets clueless college students. Sign me up. The film starts with a bunch of buddies road tripping in search of a wild weekend getaway in the woods. Cause who doesn't love a party surrounded by trees and the occasional squirrel? En route, they nearly crash into a truck driven by two good old boys, Tucker and Dale. These two country heroes exchange a glance with the college kids, and it's a full-on staring contest. The students, of course, interpret this as the "I'm gonna get you" look. In a classic "oh no, we forgot the beer" moment, the students make a pit stop at a store. Chad and Allison bump into Tucker chatting it up with the clerk. Allison spots Dale on the other side of a shelf, who's so startled he almost drops his chips. Later, our dynamic duo, Tucker and Dale, load their stuff into their van. Dale, being a bit self-conscious, can't help but gawk at the girls, especially Allison. If only they would gawk back, if you know what I mean. Taking one for their team, Tucker tells Dale to go chat with the girls and unleash his irresistible giggle. Dale, armed with a bush scythe, talk about making an impression, awkwardly giggles his way over to the girls. They're obviously terrified, and Chad swoops in like a not-so-suave superhero. The college crew continues their journey, while Tucker and Dale head to their new fixer-upper cabin in the woods. A cop starts tailing them, and Tucker pulls over faster than you can say, "I swear it's not moonshine." After some questioning, the cop warns them about their cabin's sketchy past. Undeterred, the guys arrive at their humble abode, and find bones and creepy newspaper clippings as housewarming gifts. A close call with a falling nail-covered beam has Tucker and Dale promising to fix up the place before it becomes a real-life game of mousetrap. Meanwhile, the students are getting their camp vibes on, roasting marshmallows and swapping ghost stories. Chad recounts the Memorial Day Massacre, a tale about college students meeting their untimely demise in these very woods. Talk about a buzzkill. As day turns to night, Tucker and Dale find themselves fishing on the lake. The students decide to skinny dip, and Tucker and Dale catch an eyeful of Chloe. Tucker, the ever-so-classy gentleman, tries to get closer for a better view. Allison, mid-rock climb, spots the peeping Tuckers and slips into the water, knocking herself out. Dale, channeling his inner lifeguard, swoops in to save her. Chloe's scream echoes across the lake as Dale hoists an unconscious Allison into their boat. Tucker, trying to be helpful, shouts to the students that they've got their friend. Misunderstanding the situation, the students assume their worst fears have come true and scatter. Little do they know, Tucker and Dale just want to return Allison to her friends. Chad, in full-on warrior mode, grabs an axe and heads for the shoreline, but it's too late. Let the misadventures begin. Allison wakes up the next morning feeling like she just got off a roller coaster operated by a tipsy octopus. Dale enters to serve her pancakes, but her startled reaction makes him think she might be more of a waffle person. Meanwhile, the students are brainstorming the next Marvel superhero movie. Or, you know, how to save Allison. Naomi suggests calling the police, but Chad's all, "Nah, I got this." Jason spots a mysterious shed, which definitely isn't creepy at all, and alerts the gang. Dale, realizing Allison isn't Team Pancake, offers eggs and bacon instead. He explains that she had an impromptu swim in the lake, bumped her head, and he and his friend saved her. To pass the time, Dale suggests playing Trivial Up, a game where you learn just how much you don't know. Back to the students, Mitchell loses at rock, paper, scissors, and is sent to check out the cabin. Meanwhile, Tucker's out sawing wood with a chainsaw when he accidentally slices into a beehive. The bees, clearly not a fan of chainsaws, attack Tucker, who flails around with the chainsaw like a wild interpretive dancer. Mitchell catches sight of this and mistakes it for an attack. He screams "run" like it's a zombie apocalypse, and flees into the woods with Tucker following. Mitchell doesn't get far before he meets an unfortunately placed tree bench that decides to hug him a little too tight. Later, Tucker returns to the cabin looking like he lost a boxing match to a hive of bees. He tells Allison that he saw her friends sprinting through the woods like a pack of caffeinated squirrels. Allison wants to search for them, but Dale convinces her to rest while Tucker plays detective. The students find Mitchell's body and assume the hillbillies are sending them a message like a twisted game of telephone. When they overhear Tucker and Dale, they hide behind a tree, hearts pounding like they've just seen a killer clown. Dale and Tucker decide to leave a note for the students, but after they walk away, the students misinterpret the message as a ransom note for Allison. Later, Tucker's chopping wood with a wood chipper, while Dale digs a hole for the outhouse. Allison helps Dale, revealing that she's a farm girl at heart. The students sneak up, thinking Allison's digging her own grave, and prepare to launch a rescue mission straight out of a B-movie. Oh wait. Todd readies his spear, Chad grabs an axe, and Mike arms himself with the pocket knife that's only ever been used to open Amazon packages. They split up, and on Chad's signal, chaos ensues. Dale accidentally knocks Allison out with his shovel. Before slipping into the outhouse hole, Todd trips, loses his spear, and ends up impaled. Mike sneaks up behind Tucker, but when Tucker bends down, Mike takes a nosedive into the wood chipper. Tucker tries in vain to pull him out. Dale, covered in spaghetti juice, rushes into the cabin with unconscious Allison, looking like a scene from a horror movie. Tucker follows, also spaghetti juice soaked. They come to the wild conclusion that the students must have formed a self-deletion pact and decided to off themselves in the woods. Dale suggests calling the police, but Tucker thinks that'll only make them look like murderers, because you know nothing's as innocent like a cabin full of blood and chaos. The students huddle together, questioning their life choices and why they haven't just called for help. Chad, on the other hand, is channeling his inner Bear Grylls and insists on continuing his makeshift episode of Man vs. Wild, College Edition. The sound of sirens in the distance make everyone jump like they're auditioning for a horror movie. Chuck's in the passenger seat, probably thinking about his Uber rating, when Chloe rolls up and a cop pulls over. Naomi, Chloe, and Jason make a beeline for the backseat, while Chad dramatically curses them from afar and escapes, hoping to star in his own spin-off. Meanwhile, Tucker and Dale are attempting to pull Mike's lower half out of the wood chipper, like some bizarre reverse birth scene. They manage to drag him out, but a police car stops in front of them, and the sheriff orders the students to stay put like they're misbehaving kids in timeout. He starts questioning Tucker and Dale, who claim the students have gone off the deep end and are participating in some kind of DIY self-destruction workshop. A freaked out Dale babbles about an unconscious Allison in their cabin, which only makes the sheriff more suspicious. The sheriff checks on Allison and determines she's just taking an impromptu nap. He tells Tucker and Dale they might end up facing manslaughter charges if they're lucky, but as he leans against a rickety wooden pillar, karma strikes, and the beam collapses. A spiked board gives the sheriff a surprise brain piercing, but he's still alive enough to stumble to his car and attempt to radio for help before kicking the bucket. Chuck spots the sheriff's gun and decides it's his time to shine as an action hero. He tries to shoot the two hillbillies, but Dale notices the safety is on, panics, and suggests taking it off. Chuck, proving he's not the sharpest tool in the shed, points the gun at his own head to remove the safety, and accidentally gives himself a very permanent headache. Chad emerges like the final boss in a video game, gun in hand, and starts shooting. Dale and Tucker rush inside, hitting the floor. Amidst the chaos, a dog barks outside, and Dale, terrified of Fido's wrath, crawls to the window. He sees Chad holding the dog hostage like a canine John McClane. Tucker concocts a plan where Dale uses a nail gun as a diversion while he rescues the dog. As Dale and Chad exchange DIY warfare, Tucker sneaks up and sets the dog free. But alas, the students spot Tucker and he flees into the woods, diving behind a log for cover. Chad finds him, punches him out, and when Tucker wakes up, he's hanging upside down like a human piñata. Chad rants about Tucker being pure evil before chopping off two of his fingers like a demented sushi chef. Meanwhile, Allison wakes up to find Dale gently washing her face. Distraught, Dale is too choked up to explain the madness. She comforts him, and then he spills the beans about her friend's unfortunate DIY demises. Suddenly, they hear Chad scream from outside. Allison investigates and discovers the bodies of the sheriff and her friends, which is definitely not the kind of party she was expecting. Glancing down, she spots a bloody rag on the doorstep, a morbid souvenir from this crazy journey. Dale, playing detective, spots the rag as a piece of Tucker's wardrobe, and bam! Inside they find two fingers. Dale, suddenly feeling like a hero, musters up the courage to rescue his best bud. He grabs a machete because why not, and asks Allison to tell her friends he's just a big old teddy bear who wouldn't hurt a fly. Next, Dale stomps into the woods, yelling Tucker's name, and waving his machete like it's a magic wand. He stumbles upon a terrifying scene. Spaghetti juice puddles, Tucker's cap, and Mitchell's body still hanging out, literally, from a branch. Dale finally finds Tucker doing his best piñata impression, dangling upside down. Tucker's like, dude, it's a trap. And Dale, being Dale, sets it off anyway. But surprise, he freezes, and the improvised spear only gives his pants a new air vent. Dale frees Tucker and they plan their escape from this wild adventure. Meanwhile, Chad and Naomi go all ninja mode, sneaking into the cabin to find Allison. Chad's convinced they've done something awful to her, but she's like, nah, I'm good. Just a classic case of mistaken intentions. Chad's not having it, so he starts pouring gasoline to set the place ablaze. Allison's like, whoa, dude, chill, and manages to get everyone to sit down, sip some tea, and talk it out like they're on Dr. Phil. Chad spills the tea on his tragic backstory. His parents were among the unlucky students in the Memorial Day massacre, with his mom being the only survivor. Turns out she had a close call with one of the hillbillies, stabbed him in the leg, and made a run for it. Chad's dad unfortunately ended up in an incinerator, and his mom gave birth to Chad before going cuckoo and getting institutionalized. No wonder Chad's got a hillbilly vendetta. Dale's like, hold up, Tucker and I were practically in diapers back then. Just then, Jason and Chloe sneak up to a window, ready to make their grand entrance. Jason bursts in with a lawnmower, because subtlety is overrated, and goes straight for Tucker. Tucker, pulling off some Matrix moves, dodges the attack, but poor Naomi gets a face full of blades. Chad, in full Hulk mode, tosses a table at Dale and swings an axe, but Tucker delivers a face-smashing punch to Chad. Chad retaliates by chucking a burning lamp, misses, and sets Jason's leg on fire. Liar, liar, pants on fire, anyone? No? Oh, okay. Chloe, trying to be helpful, grabs a jar to put out the flames, but surprise, it's actually moonshine, and now the whole place is lit. Literally. So Tucker, Dale, and Allison make like a banana and split, with Chad hot on their heels. They barely escape when the cabin goes kaboom, taking out everyone inside. But surprise, surprise, Chad emerges like a half-burnt Terminator. They all hop into the pickup truck and floor it, but Dale's multitasking game is weak, and they crash into a tree. Dale wakes up with a bad case of Where's Waldo? Alice in addition. Tucker's found the secret to impersonating a human ketchup bottle behind a tree. Dale tries to help, but Tucker tells him to save the damsel in distress instead. Armed with his trusty doggo sidekick, Dale heads to an abandoned sawmill. Here we find Chad's decided to play a twisted game of pin the Allison on the saw. He rambles about her becoming a hillbilly, and if she just said sorry, he'd give her a smooch. He tries to plan one on her, but his kissing game isn't on point, so he opts for a face look instead. Yikes. Dale pops out of the tool shed looking like a DIY superhero, welder's mask and chainsaw in hand. He finds Allison and tries to untie her, but Chad's voice booms over the intercom, spewing threats. The saw springs to life, and the log with Allison starts getting the wood-splitting treatment. Chad shows up for round one, armed with an axe. He throws it, but his aim is worse than a stormtrooper's. Cue an epic battle. Chad with the metal pipe, and Dale with his trusty chainsaw. Dale pulls a sneaky knee stab, a little elbow action, then uses his newfound axe skills to free Allison. The brawl continues, and Dale tosses his chainsaw at Chad like it's a game of catch. Allison and Dale make a mad dash upstairs, slam the door shut, and start looking for weapons. Allison stumbles across an old newspaper that reveals Chad's dark past. It turns out he's the hillbilly he's been hunting. Plot twist. Chad bursts in with a chainsaw, but Dale hits him with a truth bomb from the paper. Chad's in denial and still wants to murder them. Dale, thinking quickly, chucks a box of chamomile tea at him. It triggers Chad's asthma and he panics, falling out of the window like a ragdoll. Fast forward, Tucker's chilling in the hospital recovering, and Dale pops in to check on his buddy. Turns out the doc sued Chloe's finger onto Tucker by accident. Oops. Dale gives Tucker cold beer with a collapsible straw and shares his bowling date plans with Allison. Tucker's proud of his bro for leveling up his lady skills. Later, BJ, Dale's friend, asks for advice on wooing the ladies. Dale shares Tucker's wisdom with him like a true bromance. Dale and Allison finally have some alone time and he gives her a stylish pink helmet. They confess their love and share a kiss that's definitely better than Chad's face looking. Moral of the story? Don't judge a book by its cover.